this video, we are going to continue on with the DMARC setup, and we're going for example.com, and we're going to continue here with the DMARC portion of the setup guide. So here what we will do is first click on DMARC. Once we click on DMARC, we go ahead and press next, and that will start up the DMARC guide. So again, just as a reminder what DMARC is, DMARC stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. So what's important is that you do make sure that you have SPF and DKIM implemented before you implement DMARC, because this is the policy that's going to define what will happen and how to treat any messages that have SPF and DKIM and either pass or fail the authentication mechanisms for each one of those protocols. So again, we're going to click on with next and continue on, press next. So the first part is defining what the policy level is for DMARC. So this policy here is going to be the P tag of the DMARC record. And you have three options. You have none, quarantine, and reject. So again, you should always consider starting off with none first, reason being that you want to make sure that all your policies from the previous two setup guides were set up correctly and appropriately. And then this way, no messages are being impacted on the recipient side and they are being sent as needed. But you do have the option to switch if you choose to quarantine or reject. But we do recommend you start off with none. So we'll go with none. And again, this will define the policy for not only the top level domain, but also any subdomains within your organization. So we'll press next. So now here's where we're going to find where the reports are going to be sent. And the first ones are going to be your aggregate reports. We do strongly recommend that you do receive reports mainly for the analysis and monitoring purposes of what's going on with your email domain. So these reports can be sent to any email address within your organization. It is recommended not to send it to your personal work account, but to create a generic account and send that information to that account. So in this case, we'll send it to dmarc@example.com. And you can add multiple addresses if you choose to. You just need to add them. If you wish to have more than just three, just press on the plus symbol and it'll create more reports for you, or more email fields for you. So we'll go with one email address for now. We'll press next. This is where you're going to find where the forensic reports are going to be sent to. So again, the forensic reports aren't always generated too much, and you may or may not get these forensic reports, but it's still good to make sure that you do receive them just in case. And again, the forensic reports could provide a little bit more detail in which they may contain message headers, the message body, so that way you know which emails are being dropped due to your DMARC policy. So what people will do in some cases, they'll send it to the same email address as the aggregate reports, but in some cases, some people will just create a DMARC-RUF so that way they can differentiate between the aggregate reports and the forensics reports. So in this case, we'll do that. We'll go DMARC-RUF@example.com. Press next. Now, if you do have subdomains, this is where you get the option of adding a tag, which is the SP tag, to define what should the policy be for your subdomains. And again, if you look at the options, they're the same exact options as the ones you can apply to your top level domain. If you choose to do that, you do not have to do this. It's not required because, like I said previously, by default, it will take on what the P tag or the top level domain policy is. However, if you do have subdomains, it is recommended that you do consider starting off at none. So this way, while you're adjusting the top level domain, you can go to each subdomain and either apply your own DMARC policy to them and make sure that your top level domain policy does not impact those subdomains. Or if you do not have any subdomains, you can just go straight to reject. So this way, anyone who's attempting to use your email domain and tries to use a subdomain will not be able to do so because your policy is set to reject. And this way also, while you're working at none and working to fix your SPF records and so on at the none level, your subdomains, the subdomains that do not exist, are in a way protected. So we'll go with reject because we'll say example.com does not have any subdomains. We press next, and now we have the other optional features that are available to you. So for example, when should an error report be generated? So this is when the forensic reports are going to be generated, or any types of reports. The default is 0. It is recommended to do 1. And this will, again, define your error policy and then generate the policy based on what you're looking for. So you do have these options right here. You can define the alignment mode for DKIM, and you can also define the alignment mode for SPF. The recommendation is to be relaxed, and which is default. You can define what the percentage of messages subjected by the DMARC policy. You can go anywhere from 0 to 100. The default is 100%. It is recommended to stay at 100%. You can define the format of the reports generated. So there are two different formats. There's AFRF, which is the default value, which is using RFC 5965. And then there's IODF, which is using the format of RFC 5070, both of which are still going to be the XML results. Then you can define your reporting interval. By default, that is 86,400, which is 24 hours. You do have the option of making the adjustment and making those changes to how you decide to do so. Recommendation is that none, stay with it on a daily basis. When you move up to quarantine or reject, maybe you may want to increase this to maybe twice a week or maybe just once a week. And then down below here, you do have the ability to change or use a converter from hours to seconds. Once you're done, you just press finish, and the end result again is going to be your DMARC DNS record that you would implement. So you would take this, again, you can copy it and you can send it to whomever you choose to, meaning your DNS service provider or the folks or IT staff that are responsible for DNS, and they can insert this as well. Just make note that you may not exactly copy it just like this. In some third-party providers, you may only need portions of this and define those within your DNS provider or the DNS portal that they provide to you. So this is how you have DMARC set up. So now that you have SPF, you have DKIM and DMARC set up, now at this point is you need to go through, review those reports, and see what's going on. At any point in time, if you do have any questions or if you're looking for any additional assistance, please feel free to email us at the email address that's listed here, info@globalcyberalliance.org. Thank you.